I threw my addicted daughter out of the house at 18. Now she's had the baby boy I deserved, and I'm going to get him back, whatever it takes. I always knew I would be the mother of a boy. It wasn't a wish, it was a certainty. A promise the universe made me when I got married, when I planned my life perfectly, when I traced every detail of the future I deserved. But the universe betrayed me. Before I start telling my story, tell me where you're watching this video from. Come on. When the doctor announced it's a girl, something inside me cracked. It wasn't disappointment. It was betrayal. My husband smiled, held my hand, said she would be perfect. But I knew the truth. A daughter could never carry the legacy I had built. A daughter could never be the heir our family needed. I tried. I swear I tried. In the first years, I forced myself to look at that child and find something worthwhile. I dressed her in the best clothes, enrolled her in the best schools, introduced her to the right families. Everything I didn't have, I gave to her. And how did she repay me? With ingratitude. With rebellion. With an irritating stubbornness that only proved how inadequate she was for the role I needed her to play. When she was 14, I started noticing the signs. Grades dropping, wrong friends appearing, that empty look when I talked about her future. I confronted her, obviously. Said she was throwing everything away, that she was embarrassing our family, that she needed to straighten up immediately. She looked at me with those tired eyes and asked, "Why is nothing I do good enough for you?" The audacity. As if I were the villain for having expectations. For wanting her to be someone. At 16, I discovered she was using drugs. My brother caught her at a party, passing something to other teenagers, laughing as if it were innocent fun. He called me immediately, and when I got there, she was so high she could barely stand. I dragged her home that night. My husband tried to intervene, saying we needed to be calm, that she needed help and not punishment. Calm. As if calm would solve the problem of a daughter who chose to destroy everything I built for her. I demanded she take a drug test. She swore it was the first time, that she had been pressured, that she was sorry. Lies. The test confirmed it. She had multiple substances in her system. When I showed her the results, she collapsed on the floor, crying, begging for a second chance. "You've already had all the chances in the world," I said, looking at that pathetic creature at my feet. "And you wasted every one of them." My husband begged me to reconsider. Said she was sick, that she needed treatment, that there was still time. But I had already made my decision. She was 17, old enough to understand consequences. On her 18th birthday, I put her suitcases at the door. She came home from school and found everything packed. I didn't even let her in. "You made your choices," I said through the barely open door. "Now live with them." She banged on the door for hours. Cried, screamed, begged. My husband tried to open the door, but I locked it from inside and hid the key. Eventually, she grabbed the suitcases and left. I watched from the upstairs window as she dragged herself down the street, stumbling under the weight of the luggage. Good, I thought. Now she'll learn. In the following months, I cut off any access she might have. I called each family member, explained in detail what she had become, ensuring no one would help her. I canceled her credit card, blocked her access to the shared bank account, even called the college that had accepted her and informed them about the drug use, suggesting they reconsider the admission. My husband called me a monster. Said I had gone too far, that she was just a confused child who needed guidance, not abandonment. He tried to look for her, but I made it clear, if he maintained contact, the marriage would end. And considering all the money came from my family inheritance, he knew exactly what that meant. He stayed. But something died between us that day. Years passed. 5, to be exact. 5 years where I pretended she never existed. I removed her photos, donated her belongings, erased every trace of her from my house and my life. When someone asked about children, I simply said we hadn't been blessed. It was easier than admitting I had failed. My husband never got over it. He became a shadow, wandering through the house like a ghost, looking at me with a mixture of disgust and resignation. We slept in separate rooms. We barely talked. But he remained, trapped by the financial comfort my family provided. Then, 3 months ago, I received a call from my cousin Sophia. She was agitated, speaking too fast, stumbling over words. "You won't believe what I saw," she said. "Your daughter." I saw her at the mall. My stomach tightened. So what? She was with a baby. A boy, he looked newborn. She was carrying him in her arms, all smiling, talking to someone. She looked happy. The phone almost fell from my hand. A boy. She had a boy. That. That drug-addicted, useless, failed slut somehow managed to have exactly what was denied to me. A male child. An heir. The thing I begged for, planned for, prayed for, and that fate cruelly refused me. And she, who threw away every opportunity one gave her, who chose drugs instead of excellence, who embarrassed me before all of society, simply got this without any effort. The injustice suffocated me. Find out where she lives, I told Sophia, my voice trembling with a mixture of rage and something I couldn't name. Find out everything about her. Where she works, who she's with, everything. Why? Are you going to try to reconnect? Just do what I'm asking. I hung up before she could question further. I spent the following days in a trance. I barely slept, barely ate. All I could think about was that baby. My grandson. The boy who should have been my son. The heir who could finally correct the mistake that was her birth. When Sophia sent me the address 2 weeks later, along with photos she managed to take discreetly, I almost had a breakdown. The photos showed my daughter leaving a modest but well-kept condo, wearing professional clothes, carrying the baby in an expensive stroller. She looked different. Older, obviously, but also more sober. More composed. There was something in her posture that suggested stability. Impossible. Addicts don't recover like that. She was faking it. She had to be faking it. I showed the photos to my husband that night. It was the first time in years I initiated a real conversation with him. Did you know? I asked, throwing the photos on the kitchen table. He looked at them for a long moment. When he raised his eyes, they were filled with tears. I knew, he admitted, his voice breaking. I always knew. The betrayal hit me like a punch. What do you mean you always knew? I never stopped looking for her. I found her 3 years ago. She was in rehab, fighting to rebuild her life. I helped her financially without you knowing. I used money from my own account, savings I kept before we got married. My vision darkened at the edges. You what? She's my daughter, he exploded, punching the table. It was the first time in years I'd seen him show any real emotion. You may have discarded her like trash, but I couldn't. I couldn't abandon my own child. She's not a child. She's an addict. A failure. A disgrace. She's been clean for 2.5 years when she got pregnant. She works at an accounting firm. She's engaged to a decent man. She rebuilt her entire life, without your help, despite everything you did to destroy her. His words should have meant something. Should have awakened pride, or relief, or at least curiosity. But all I felt was fury. And you thought it appropriate to hide this from me? To hide my grandson from me? Your grandson? He laughed, a bitter and empty sound. You abandoned his mother. You have no right whatsoever to that baby. I have every right. I'm his grandmother. And unlike her, I can actually give him a decent future. A real life. Don't be naive. Do you really think an ex-addict can raise a child properly? She'll relapse. It's just a matter of time. And when that happens, that baby will suffer. She won't relapse. She's stronger than you ever gave her credit for. Then why didn't she come to me? Why didn't she seek me out to apologize, to show she changed, to ask forgiveness for what she did to this family? My husband looked at me with such contempt that I felt my skin burn. Why the hell would she ask for forgiveness? You destroyed her childhood. You made her feel she would never be good enough. You pushed her to drugs with your constant cruelty, and when she fell, you kicked her while she was down. She owes you nothing. Absolutely nothing. He left the kitchen before I could respond. But his words kept echoing. Especially one phrase. You pushed her to drugs with your cruelty. Lie. Absurd lie. I gave her everything. Opportunities most children only dream of having. If she chose to waste them, the fault is entirely hers. But that baby, that innocent boy, he had no fault in anything. He deserved better than being raised by someone with her history. He deserved stability, resources, proper guidance. He deserved me. That night, I started making plans. Real plans. Concrete plans that would ensure my grandson grew up with the advantages he deserved, away from his mother's incompetence. I knew it wouldn't be easy. I knew she would resist. But I also knew I had resources she would never have. Connections she couldn't imagine. Powers she would never understand. And this time I wouldn't fail. This time I would have my son. Even if he came through someone else, he would be mine to mold, to guide, to finally raise the right way. I spent the following weeks obsessed. Every thought, every waking moment, was consumed by strategies and plans. I hired a private investigator, a discreet man recommended by a family lawyer. I needed concrete information. Exact address, Daily routine, workplace, fiancé's name, financial history, everything. The report arrived 10 days later, and when I opened the envelope, I felt a mixture of satisfaction and irritation. My daughter, who now went by a different name, Mariana Costa, no longer Mariana Mendez, worked as a financial analyst at a mid-sized company. Decent salary, but nothing extraordinary. She lived in a rented 2-bedroom apartment. She was engaged to a man named Rafael Santos, a civil engineer, also with modest income. The baby was 3 months old. Name Miguel. Miguel. A strong, traditional name. At least in that she hadn't completely failed. The attached photos showed an irritatingly normal routine. Her leaving for work in the morning, always punctual. Rafael picking up the baby from daycare in the afternoons. Weekends at the park. Visits to the market. Casual dinners at cheap restaurants. Mediocrity. It was all so mediocre it made me nauseous. My grandson deserved more than that. He deserved the best private education, international travel, contact with the right families, opportunities this common life would never provide. I showed the report to my lawyer, Dr. Enrique Portela, a man I had known for decades and trusted completely. I want custody of my grandson, I declared, placing the photos on his elegant desk. He adjusted his glasses, examined the documents for a long moment, then looked at me with a careful expression. Mrs. Mendez, I understand your interest, but I need to be frank. Legally, this will be extremely difficult. The mother shows no current signs of negligence. She's employed, the baby is registered, has adequate medical care. She's an ex-addict, I interrupted. Doesn't that count? It counts, yes, but only as history. If she's been clean for years, if there's no evidence of relapse, if the baby is healthy and well cared for, a judge would hardly remove the child from the maternal home without substantial cause. Then find a cause. Dr. Portela sighed. It doesn't work like that. I can't fabricate evidence. And even if I could, it would be criminal. I'm not asking you to fabricate anything. I'm asking you to investigate properly. I'm sure there's something. Addicts always relapse. It's just a matter of finding proof. And if there's no proof because there's no relapse? I looked at him coldly. Then you're not looking hard enough. He closed the folder. Mrs. Mendez, as your lawyer, I need to advise you against this path. A custody action without solid foundation will not only fail, but could result in a restraining order against you. It could destroy any future chance of a relationship with your grandson. I don't need a relationship. I need custody. Why? The question came out sharper than he probably intended. Sorry, but I need to ask. You've had no contact with your daughter for 5 years. Why now, suddenly, this interest in the baby? Because he's a boy, I almost screamed. Because he's what should have been from the beginning. Because fate is finally giving me a second chance. But I said none of that. Instead, I hardened my voice. Because I'm his grandmother. And I know I can offer more than she ever will. Isn't that reason enough? Dr. Portela studied me for a long moment. I'll be honest, ma'am. I don't think you have a case. But if you insist on proceeding, I can prepare an initial petition. Just know the chances are minimal, and the process will be expensive and draining. Money is no problem. Prepare the documents. He nodded, reluctantly. Very well. I'll need a few weeks. Weeks. As if I had patience for weeks. That night, I tried a different approach. I waited for my husband to come home from work and intercepted him in the living room before he could escape to his room. We need to talk, I announced. He looked at me with exhaustion. About what? About Miguel. Our grandson. We have nothing to talk about regarding that. I think we do. Have you seen him? Silence. But the answer was in his eyes. You've seen him, I repeated, not as a question. When? That's none of your business. He's my grandson. It is my business. My husband walked to the bar, poured himself whiskey, took a long sip before responding. I see him regularly. Rafael and Mariana invited me to be part of Miguel's life. I'm welcome there, unlike here where I'm only tolerated for the money. The words cut, but I maintained composure. Do they know you're married to me? They know. And they made it very clear you'll never be welcome. Never. Mariana has a court order ready to be activated the moment you appear near their residence. That stopped me. What do you mean a ready court order? She knows you. Knows your obsessions. She knew it would be a matter of time before you found out about Miguel and tried something. So she took legal precautions. What kind of precautions? The kind that ensure if you show up, call, send messages, or make any kind of unsolicited contact, you'll be arrested for harassment. She also documented everything you did 5 years ago. All the calls you made to sabotage her, all the family members you manipulated, every penny you cut. It's all recorded, with dates, times, witnesses. My chest tightened. She can't prove any of that. She can. She recorded some of the phone conversations you had with her uncles, where you explicitly said you were cutting support to teach her a lesson. She has emails, messages, even a recording of you screaming at her the day you threw her out, because I left my phone recording in the hall. You recorded that. I did. Because even then, some part of me knew you were wrong. And that one day, this would be necessary. I felt the floor shake beneath my feet. Then why are you still here? If you hate me so much, if you're on her side, why don't you leave? He finished the whiskey. Because despite everything, I'm still legally married to you. And because a pathetic part of me still remembers the woman you were before you became. This, a bitter, controlling, obsessed person. A person who destroyed her own daughter because she wasn't born with the right chromosome. It's not about that. It's exactly about that. He shouted for the second time in our decades of marriage. It's always been about that. You never wanted a child. You wanted a project. A doll to mold, to display, to use as an extension of your inflated ego. And when the child you had revealed herself to be a real person, with real feelings and weaknesses, you discarded her. I tried to save her. You tried to destroy her. And almost succeeded. If it weren't for her strength, for the resilience she definitely didn't inherit from you, she'd be dead now. Dead or worse. And you'd sleep peacefully at night. Tears of rage burned my eyes. How dare you? I dare because someone needs to tell you the truth. Mariana owes you nothing. Miguel owes you nothing. And if you try to approach them, I'll call the police myself. He left the room, leaving me alone with my untouched whiskey and a fury that threatened to swallow me whole. But he was wrong. Everyone was wrong. I wasn't going to give up. I couldn't. That child, that boy, was my last chance to fix everything. To prove I hadn't failed. To finally have the son the universe denied me. And I would do whatever was necessary to achieve that. 2 weeks later, Dr. Portela called me. I prepared the initial documents for the custody petition. But I need to warn you again. This will draw attention. Your daughter will be notified. She'll have the opportunity to respond. And based on what you told me about her legal precautions, I bet she already has lawyers waiting for this. I don't care. You should care. Because as soon as you file this, there's no going back. It'll be a public battle, expensive, and probably lost. File it. He sighed. As you wish. But don't say I didn't warn you. The documents were filed 3 days later. And then I waited. The response came faster than expected. Just 48 hours later, I received an email notification. A letter from a law firm I didn't know. The language was polite but firm. Any additional attempt at contact, direct or indirect, would result in immediate legal action. The custody petition would be vigorously contested. And more importantly, all evidence of my past behavior would be presented in court if I continued down this path. They even attached some examples. Transcripts of phone calls, copies of emails I sent to universities sabotaging her admission, even statements from relatives who were willing to testify against me. Dr. Portela was right. She had prepared. But I also had resources. And I wasn't going to stop just because some third-rate lawyer tried to intimidate me. If they wanted war, they'd have war. And in the end, I would win. Because I always won. Or at least, that's what I needed to believe. In the following days, I dove into an obsessive investigation. If I couldn't approach physically, I would use all other available means. I hired a second investigator. This one specialized in digital surveillance. I wanted to know everything. Every online movement, every social media post, every financial transaction I could access legally. The report I received a week later was frustrating in its normalcy. Mariana maintained extremely private social media profiles. Only close friends had access. Her public posts were rare and carefully selected. Landscape photos, generic motivational quotes, nothing personal. Nothing about Miguel. She had learned to protect herself. Her finances were equally disappointing. Regular salary, no major expenses, modest but consistent savings. No sign of addictions, no suspicious transactions. Even her online purchases were boring. Diapers, baby clothes, books about motherhood. She's hiding something, I insisted to the investigator during our meeting. She has to be. Nobody changes that much. The man, a middle-aged guy with a perpetually tired expression, shook his head. Mrs. Mendez, with all respect, sometimes people really do change. especially when they have enough motivation. A child can be that motivation. Or it could be a facade. Keep looking. Looking for what, exactly? Something. Anything. Some evidence that she's not this perfect mother she's pretending to be. He sighed, but accepted the contract extension. Meanwhile, I started working on another front. If I couldn't attack legally with what I had, I needed to build a narrative. I needed the right people to see Mariana the way I saw her. I started subtly, during a charity luncheon with other high society women. I let slip, almost casually, that I had a daughter who had disappeared years ago due to drug problems. It's a tragedy, I sighed dramatically. I tried everything. Rehab, therapy, interventions. But she didn't want help. And now I've discovered she had a baby. I'm so worried about that innocent child. The women around the table made compassionate sounds. Some touched my arm in solidarity. Have you tried to make contact? Asked Beatriz, wife of an important businessman. I tried. But she completely blocked me. Won't even let me see my own grandson. I let my voice break a little. I lie awake at night imagining if he's safe, if he's being well cared for. Addicts are so unpredictable. That's terrible, murmured another woman. Is there anything we can do? Exactly the opening I wanted. Honestly, I don't know. My lawyer says I need concrete evidence of negligence to act. But how can I get evidence if she won't let me anywhere near? The seed was planted, and I knew these women would talk, would spread the story. Eventually, it would reach the right ears. My husband, of course, discovered what I was doing. You're spreading lies about Mariana, he confronted me one night, his voice trembling with contained rage. They're not lies. She has a history of drug use. That's a fact. Had a history. 5 years ago. She's clean. Has been regularly tested as part of post-rehab follow-up. She's employed, stable, happy. How can you be sure? Addicts lie. It's what they do. Because I see her regularly. Because I know her doctors, her counselors. Because unlike you, I actually care about the truth, not just controlling the narrative. You've always been weak, I spat. Always defended her, even when she was clearly wrong. Even when she was destroying our family. She didn't destroy our family. You destroyed it. With your impossible expectations, your coldness, your inability to love anything that didn't fit perfectly into your mold. Get out of my way. No. I'm going to say this one last time, and you're going to listen to me. If you continue with this, the smear campaign, the custody attempts, anything, I'm going to leave you. I'll divorce you. I'll testify against you in court, and I'll make sure you lose access to my family's money. I froze. You wouldn't do that. I would. I already have the papers prepared. And unlike what you think, the money isn't all from your family. A good part came from my parents' trust fund. A trust one control. And that I can cut your access to whenever I want. You're threatening me? I'm warning you. Leave Mariana and Miguel alone, or lose everything. For the first time in decades, I saw real determination in his eyes. It wasn't an empty threat. But how could I just give up? How did he expect me to ignore the fact that my grandson, my blood, my second chance, was being raised by someone so inadequate? You don't understand, I said, my voice coming out weaker than intended. That boy. He should be mine. Not hers. My husband looked at me with something that could have been pity, if it weren't mixed with so much contempt. He's not yours. He never will be. And the sooner you accept that, the less damage you'll cause to yourself and everyone around you. He left, leaving me alone with thoughts that spiraled in increasingly tight circles. I spent the following weeks in a state of constant agitation. I'd wake up in the middle of the night with elaborate plans, only to discard them by morning. Every time I picked up the phone to call Dr. Portella with a new strategy, I remembered my husband's threats. But the obsession didn't diminish. It intensified. I started driving to their neighborhood. I didn't get close to the house. I knew about the cameras, about the waiting court order. But I parked a few blocks away, watching from a distance. I saw Mariana leave for work one morning. She wore a discreet gray suit, hair pulled back in a professional bun. She looked so adult. So different from the rebellious teenager I threw out. Rafael left shortly after with Miguel in the stroller. The baby was dressed in a light blue onesie, a little sun protection hat. Rafael stopped every few meters to adjust the stroller, check the baby, smile at him. It was such a perfectly domestic scene it made me physically sick. This should be mine. I should be the one giving this care, ensuring every detail. Not some mediocre engineer who probably didn't even know the difference between appropriate cognitive stimulation and developmental negligence. I went there 3 times that week. On the third time, a police car slowly passed by the street. The officer looked directly at me. Message received. They were watching. I stopped going personally, but the obsession found other paths. I created fake social media profiles. Tried to add people Mariana knew, hoping to get indirect access to her private posts. Most ignored my requests. Those who accepted didn't have access to anything relevant. I hired a third investigator. This one specialized in information recovery. I didn't ask about his methods. I didn't want to know if they were legal or not. He managed to get some photos. From public events, mainly. Miguel at the park. Miguel at the pediatric clinic. Miguel in a stroller during a walk at the mall. I studied each image with sick intensity. I looked for signs of negligence, health problems, anything I could use. But he looked healthy. Happy even. Rosy cheeks, alert eyes, always clean and well-dressed. It's not enough, I murmured to the photos spread on my desk. I need more. That's when Sophia called me. My cousin who had discovered Miguel in the first place. You need to stop this, she said without preamble. Stop what? This obsession. Everyone's talking. People are starting to see you as unstable. Unstable? I'm the only sensible person in this whole situation. No, you're not. You're harassing your own daughter. Spreading rumors about her. Hiring people to follow her. This isn't normal. I'm protecting my grandson. He doesn't need protection. He has parents who love him and care for him. The only danger in his life is you. The betrayal cut deep. You're on her side now? There are no sides. There's only reality. And the reality is that Mariana recovered, built a decent life, and is raising her son well. Well, you're destroying yourself over a fantasy. It's not a fantasy. It's my right as a grandmother. You have no rights. You abdicated any rights when you threw her out of the house at 18. When you cut all support. When you tried to sabotage every aspect of her life. Sophia sighed heavily. Look, I love you. We're family. But I need to be honest. If you continue like this, I can't support you anymore. None of us can. Then don't support me. I don't need anyone. Everyone needs someone. Even you. But you're so consumed by this thing you can't see what you're losing. I hung up on her. But her words echoed. Especially one phrase, can't see what you're losing. I looked around my personal office. The walls covered with photos I stole through investigators. Maps of the route Mariana took daily. Legal documents scribbled with frantic notes. Lists of possible tactics, each more desperate than the last. When did this start to look like a crazy person's office? I shook my head, pushing the thought away. No, I wasn't crazy. I was determined, focused, doing what was necessary. And if everyone else was too weak to understand, then I'd continue alone. I picked up the phone and called the specialized investigator. I need more information. Deeper. I don't care how you get it. There was a pause. Ma'am, I need to warn you that if we cross certain lines, we both could face serious legal consequences. You'll be well compensated. Another pause. I'll see what I can do. I hung up and allowed myself a small smile of satisfaction. They hadn't seen yet how far I was willing to go. But they would. Eventually, everyone would. And when I finally had Miguel in my arms where he belonged, everyone would understand I was right all along. The investigator came back with information 2 weeks later, but it wasn't what I expected. I got access to the baby's medical history, he said, passing a folder across the coffee shop table where we'd arranged to meet. He looked uncomfortable, his eyes avoiding mine. But I need to warn you, there's nothing compromising here. I opened the folder eagerly. Pediatric records. Vaccinations up to date. Weight and height within normal ranges. No emergency visits. No signs of negligence or abuse. This doesn't work, I murmured, flipping through the pages. I need something real. Something that proves she's not capable. Mrs. Mendez. He hesitated, then continued. Maybe there's nothing to find. I've investigated hundreds of cases. When there's real negligence, there are always signs. Missed appointments. Unexplained injuries. Developmental delays. There's none of that here. Then look deeper. There is no deeper. I'm already operating in ethically questionable areas. If I continue, I could lose my license. And you could face criminal charges. I'm paying you to do a job. I'm returning your money. He pushed an envelope across the table. I can't continue with this. It's wrong. And frankly, ma'am, I think you need professional help. Not an investigator. He left before I could respond. I sat there, trembling with rage and frustration, looking at the envelope of money as if it were a physical betrayal. Everyone was abandoning me. Everyone. I went home and found my husband in the living room, drinking wine while watching the news. He didn't even look at me when I entered. "Your investigator abandoned me," I announced. "What a shame." His voice was flat, uninterested. "Aren't you going to ask why?" "Because he probably has a conscience. Something you clearly lost a long time ago." "How dare you?" "I got a call today," he interrupted me, finally looking at me. "From Mariana. She knows about the investigators, about you driving near their house, about the fake profiles on social media. Everything." My stomach sank. "How did she?" "Because you're not as discreet as you think. And because they have much better lawyers than yours, who are monitoring your every move." He stood up, walking until he was right in front of me. "She's giving you one last chance. Stop now, completely, or she goes to court. Not for custody. You've already proven you have no case. But for a permanent restraining order and possibly criminal charges for harassment and invasion of privacy. She wouldn't do that. She would. And I'd support her. In fact, I already gave my written testimony about your behavior. I felt like I'd been slapped. You testify against me? Without hesitation. Because someone needs to stop you before you destroy yourself. Or worse, hurt that family. I would never hurt Miguel. You're already hurting him. Every time you harass his parents, every time you try to invade their privacy, every time you spread lies, you're creating an environment of fear and stress. You think that doesn't affect a baby? That he doesn't feel when his parents are tense and worried? I just want what's best for him. You want what's best for you. It's always been about you. Your need for control. Your wounded ego because you had a daughter instead of a son. Your sick obsession with legacy and lineage, as if that means anything. It means everything. To you, maybe. But to a child? All that matters is being loved, cared for, and safe. And Miguel has that with Mariana and Rafael. They love him. Really. Not as a project or a second chance, but as a person. Tears of rage burned my eyes. You never understood. Never understood what I went through. The expectations that weighed on me, the pressure. Then maybe you should have dealt with that in therapy, instead of dumping it all on an innocent child. He grabbed his coat. "I have lawyers preparing divorce papers. You can stay in the house for 6 more months while you look for another place. After that, I'll take over the property completely. You can't kick me out. I can. The house is in my family's name, remember? The prenup you signed makes that very clear. You're entitled to a modest pension, but not to the property. I gave years of my life to this marriage. And I gave you decades of patience. It's over." He went to the door, then stopped. "You know what the biggest tragedy in all this is? You could have had a relationship with Miguel. Mariana was willing initially to give you a chance. But you burned that bridge before even building it. Because you didn't want to be a grandmother. You wanted to be an owner." He left, and the door closing echoed like a gunshot in the silence of the house. I fell onto the couch, my whole body shaking. This couldn't be happening. I couldn't be losing everything like this. I grabbed my phone, my fingers trembling as I opened contacts. I called my cousin Sophia. Voicemail. I called my brother. He answered, but when I started talking, he interrupted me. "I already know why you're calling. And the answer is no. I won't help you with this anymore. I talked to a lawyer. If I keep involving myself, I could be an accomplice to harassment. You're my brother. And Mariana is my niece. A niece who, I should remind you, I helped throw out of the house years ago because you convinced me it was the right thing to do. I carry that guilt every day. I won't make it worse by helping you traumatize her again. So you're abandoning me too. I'm saving you from yourself. Or trying to." He sighed. "Get professional help. Really. Please." He hung up. I spent the entire night awake, staring at the ceiling, my mind racing in circles. Everyone was wrong. They had to be. I was the only one who saw the truth, the only one who understood what was at stake. But a small, quiet voice at the back of my mind whispered, "What if you're wrong?" I shook my head violently, pushing the thought away. No, I was right. I always was. I grabbed my laptop and opened the folders of information about Mariana. Photos, documents, maps, lists. Years of accumulated material. Evidence of my dedication, my determination. Or evidence of my madness. I closed the laptop abruptly. I needed a new plan. A better plan. Smarter. All these efforts had been too direct, too obvious. I needed to be more subtle. In the following days, I kept a low profile. I stopped hiring investigators. I stopped driving through their neighborhood. I stopped trying to add people on social media. But I didn't stop planning. I started researching legal precedents. Cases where grandparents won custody despite parental opposition. They were rare, but they existed. They usually involved serious negligence, abuse, or parental mental instability. If Mariana wasn't going to give me evidence of negligence, maybe I could create evidence of mental instability. It was risky, definitely illegal, but I was running out of options. I started slowly. I created a fake online profile, this time more elaborate. A fictional woman named Paula, single mother, also in recovery from addiction. I found online support groups that Mariana frequented, information one of the investigators had discovered weeks ago. As Paula, I started interacting, posting supportive messages, sharing invented experiences, gaining the community's trust. It took 3 weeks, but eventually Mariana responded to one of my posts. Just a brief, encouraging comment. But it was a start. Over the next month, I built a careful online relationship. Paula and Mariana exchanged messages occasionally. Nothing deep, just superficial mutual support. Then I started phase 2. Paula began having relapses. Worrying posts about wanting to use again, about feeling overwhelmed with motherhood. Mariana responded with empathy and encouragement, exactly as I expected. But then she did something I didn't expect. She offered her personal phone number, in case Paula needed to talk during a real crisis. I looked at that number on the screen for long minutes. It was exactly what I wanted, direct access. But suddenly I felt dirty. This woman, my daughter, was offering genuine support to a stranger she thought was in danger. Even after everything she'd been through, even knowing the world could be cruel, she still chose kindness. I closed the laptop without responding. For 3 days, I didn't open it. I tried to convince myself I was just planning the next move. But the truth was more complicated. For the first time in months, maybe years, I was questioning myself. The phone rang, pulling me from my thoughts. Unknown number. I answered. Mrs. Mendez? A female voice, professional. Yes. My name is Dr. Patricia Alves. I'm a lawyer representing Mariana Costa. I'm calling to formally inform you that if any additional contact is attempted, direct, indirect, online, through third parties, or any other means, we will proceed immediately with legal action. This includes creating fake profiles on online platforms frequented by my client. My blood froze. I don't know what you're talking about. Mrs. Mendez, we have tech specialists. We traced the Paula profile back to your IP address. We have screenshots of all interactions. This constitutes cyber harassment and can result in criminal charges. I just wanted. I don't care what you wanted. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to delete all fake profiles. You're going to stop any and all surveillance. You're going to stop spreading information about my client. And in return, we won't sue you. For now, you can't stop me from. We can. And we will. You have 24 hours to comply. After that, we go to court. And this time, it won't just be a restraining order. It'll be criminal charges. With your documented history of behavior, I guarantee a judge won't be sympathetic. She hung up. I sat in absolute silence, the phone still in my hand. They knew. They knew everything. And finally, for the first time, I began to understand that maybe I really had no chance of winning this. 3 years passed since that phone call. 3 years living in a small, lifeless apartment, sustained by a miserable pension that barely covered the basics. The divorce left me with almost nothing. My ex-husband made sure of that, presenting every piece of evidence of my obsessive behavior, every violation, every lie. Family members avoided me. My brother changed his number. Sophia blocked all my contact attempts. Even the women from the social circle who once listened to me with sympathy now crossed the street when they saw me. I had become a pariah. The crazy woman obsessed with the grandson she could never have. I deleted the fake profiles that day, as ordered. I stopped with the investigators, the surveillance, everything. Not out of conscience, but out of pure fear. Mariana's lawyer wasn't bluffing. Any wrong step and I'd be in jail. But the obsession didn't die. It just transformed into something darker, quieter. A wound that rotted inside while I smiled politely at the supermarket. Then, 2 weeks ago, I received a letter. It was from my ex-husband's office. He had died. Sudden heart attack. And in his will, he left something for me, not money, but documents. A sealed box with specific instructions. Only open if you're ready for the truth. When I opened it, I found diaries. Years of his notes, starting from before Mariana's birth. I read everything in one night. And the truth destroyed me in ways no lawsuit could. He wrote about how he saw me change during pregnancy, when we discovered it would be a girl. How my smile disappeared, how I started withdrawing. He wrote about the first time he heard me say I wished she had never been born. Mariana was only 3 months old. Page after page of painful observations. How I criticized every aspect of her. How I never held her voluntarily. How I always compared her to other people's children and found her inferior. How at 5 years old, she asked why mommy didn't like her. And he wrote about the drugs. About how Mariana started self-medicating at 14 because the anxiety of never being good enough for me was literally killing her. How she attempted suicide at 15, something he hid from me because he knew I'd blame her for that too. He wrote, "It wasn't Mariana who failed. It was me. I failed to protect her from you. And that's a guilt I'll take to the grave." The last entry was from a week before he died. I saw Miguel today. He's 4 years old now, healthy, happy, loved. Mariana is an incredible mother, everything you never were. And I have to live knowing she learned how not to be a mother by watching you. My only redemption is knowing I broke the cycle by supporting her when you abandoned her. She won't repeat your mistakes. Miguel is safe. Finally, something went right. I closed the last diary as the sun rose, my hands trembling. Everything I did, every action, every justification, every moment of conviction that I was right, it was all a lie. Lies I told myself because accepting the truth meant accepting I was the monster. It wasn't about legacy. It wasn't about giving Miguel a better life. It was about control. About ego. About not being able to bear that the daughter I rejected achieved the happiness I never had. I picked up my phone. For a brief moment, I considered trying contact one last time. A message. A request for forgiveness. But what right did I have? After everything? Instead, I wrote a letter. Not to send. I would never violate the restraining order, but for myself. A complete confession of everything I did, everything I thought, all the ways I failed. I ended with a single line. Mariana was right to keep me away. Miguel is safe because she's strong where I was weak. And that's the only good thing that resulted from me. I stored the letter along with the diaries in a box. There's no redemption for me. There's no happy ending where I realize my mistakes and everyone forgives me. Some damage is permanent. Mariana rebuilt her life despite me. Miguel will grow up loved, safe, never knowing his paternal grandmother exists. And that's good. That's right. I now live with the weight of understanding perfectly what I lost. Not Miguel, but the chance to have been a real mother from the beginning. This awareness is my prison, more effective than any court order. And maybe that's exactly what I deserve. Epilogue. 6 years later. Mariana held Miguel's hand as they walked through the park, watching her now 9-year-old son run toward the swings. Rafael was beside her, his protective arm around her shoulders. "Mom, look how high I'm going," Miguel shouted, pumping his legs. "I see, love." "Be careful," she responded, smiling. Rafael kissed her hair. "Are you okay? You're quiet today." Mariana nodded. "Just thinking. I got a notification from the lawyer yesterday. She died. Alone in the apartment. It took days for them to find her." Rafael tensed. "I'm sorry. Don't be." Mariana looked at Miguel, her heart overflowing with love. "I chose to protect us. I chose peace instead of forgiveness. And it was the right decision. No regrets. None." She squeezed his hand. She had decades to choose to be different. The consequences were her choice, not mine. Miguel came running back, hugging her legs. "Can I have ice cream?" Mariana crouched down, looking into her son's happy eyes. "Of course you can, my love." As they walked together toward the ice cream shop, Mariana didn't look back. There was no need. The past was dead and buried, where it should be. And she was finally free. If this story touched you in any way, please leave a like and subscribe to the channel for more stories of overcoming injustice. Your comments and support make all the difference for other people who might be going through similar situations. Until the next story.